Brought to you by the New Jersey Education Association.
Welcome to New Jersey Capitol Report. I'm Steve Adubato.
And I'm Rafael Piraman. For the past 30 years, the New Jersey Supreme Court has compelled the state to give added financial aid to New Jersey's poorest school districts and to its neediest students. But Governor Christie has now proposed to change that with what he calls a fairness formula that would give each district the same rate of $6,599 per student. Is this truly a fair formula? And whether it is or not, how will the Democratic-controlled legislature respond? Joining us now to answer these questions is the Executive Director of the Education Law Center, David Sciarra. David, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
So, David, the governor says billions and billions have been spent on these poor districts, much less on the other districts, and there's nothing to show for it, so it won't be a big loss and it'll be a lot more fair if the money's equally distributed, you say.
It's the height of unfairness. I mean, this takes us back to a time we've long passed in New Jersey, really 40 years, where aid is divided up among poor districts and rich districts. Rich districts will get substantial amounts of aid from these poorest districts. You'll have us going back to where there's two separate systems. The amount of money that will be spent on poor kids will depend, again, on the property, wealth, and income of your community. It won't be based on need. And the money will basically, lots of money will go out to suburban districts. It will create, again, take us back to the days when we had two separate school systems, one for poor, one for rich.
So, David and Ralph, let's do this. The governor can clearly speak for himself. When he announced this, he made the case as to why we should, in fact, be changing the formula. This is the governor speaking on why we should radically, significantly change the way we fund public schools from the state, in the state of New Jersey.
We are not talking about reducing aid that we send to K-12 education $1 anywhere in the state. This is not a budget cutting proposal. This is a budget reallocation proposal based upon fairness to children and the families of this state. All over the state, we slay the dragon of property taxes by implementing the fairness formula. For the first time in anyone's memory, property taxes would be plummeting, not rising, and all through valuing each child and their hopes and dreams and potential the same.
Thank our partners on NJTV News for that. David, the question is, what could be wrong about reducing property taxes in suburban communities that right now are paying way too much? That would be an offshoot of this plan.
We can't have property tax relief on the backs of the poorest kids in our schools. We can't have property tax relief in ways that fundamentally will deprive thousands and thousands of at-risk children, children with disabilities, children who need to learn English in schools, other at-risk children of the opportunities they need. And frankly, it doesn't even do property tax relief when you think about it, because the communities from which all of this school aid will be taken, the poorest communities in the state, actually are some of the communities that have the highest tax rates in the state. You look at a district like Orange, its total equalized tax burden is twice the state average. So we're going to be taking money out of this district. It has no capacity to make it up and sending it to other districts that may or may not have property tax problems.
Now, David, you said that if this went into effect, we'd go back to the bad old days where there's essentially two different school systems in New Jersey, but aren't they that now?
Well, we've done a really good job in New Jersey, unlike other states. We're the second highest performing in the nation. Our low-income kids, our at-risk kids are performing better than any other state.
Are they?
Oh, yeah. When you look at the progress that's going on in our poorest communities over the last decade, we have made substantial gains.
The parents of those kids, many of them would disagree with you, David.
That's not true. If you look at, the governor talks about Newark, actually Newark's graduation. State Superintendent Cerf the other day was talking about how things are improving in Newark, and they have. Now, is there a way to go? Of course. But if you look at districts like Elizabeth, Union City, which is a national model, Perth Amboy, Long Branch, poor districts across the state have made substantial gains, David, and the governor doesn't want to talk about it.
David, listen, you have made a strong case for this, but the governor also points out statistics like this. In Asbury Park, $33,000 per student, $33,000, which is 5 times plus what the governor's proposing. $33,000 per student in Asbury Park with a 66% graduation rate. We appreciate the statistics you just laid out, but you can't ignore those numbers when the governor says it's not working in certain communities.
So first of all, the governor's...
More money is what I'm saying.
The governor is misleading the public on the per pupil spending.
Is that not accurate?
It's not accurate. Because what he's doing, he's done this since he's come into office. Take Camden, for example. He says Camden spends $30,000 per pupil. It does not. What he's done is he's added in all these other costs like pension payments for retired teachers, debt service on capital, the amount of money we've spent on improving school buildings, things like that, adds it all in and calls it per pupil. It's not. Camden actually spends $19,000 per pupil, and when you adjust it for student need, it's $11,000. Newark, $17,000, $11,000. So the governor really should start by being straight with the public and using the correct per pupil numbers instead of misleading people for whatever political purposes he may have in mind.
So you're comfortable right now. By the way, what do you think the odds of this moving forward and passing are?
It's dead on arrival.
Well, then why would the governor even propose this? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's the question, yeah.
Who knows? The only thing this is going to do, this is not going anywhere in the legislature because legislators know we have a long commitment in this state to funding children based on need. Our Supreme Court has said that over and over again. We can't go back to the, as I said, the bad old days when we ignored
what the governor's proposing is a ballot initiative that would essentially change the Constitution so that the courts would be out of it, correct?
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. So if it's not going to happen, again, why is he doing it? Is he beginning a conversation? Are you assuming or saying that it's political in some way?
I have no idea what the governor's political motives are.
But he's not alone here. We've talked to a lot of Republican legislators from some of these suburban districts, respectfully, David, who have said they think their communities are getting shortchanged. They don't want to see urban communities get hurt, these 31 Abbott districts and others, but they're worried about property tax owners in their district.
And you're obviously very upset about it, so if you think it's at an arrival, why not just shrug your shoulders?
Well, it is. And the only thing it will do is it is a campaign on the governor's part for whatever political motives he has to divide us among each other. So this is another situation where he's going to divide communities, families, and students among each other. He's going to not base education funding and reform based on student need. And all it's going to do is create racial divisions, ethnic divisions, class divisions. It is the last thing New Jersey needs. As I said, when you look at New Jersey overall, we've made substantial progress. We are at the top of the nation, and we've also made substantial progress in improving opportunities for our most at-risk kids. What we need to do, the real answer is, here's the real thing.
A few seconds left, but you've got to acknowledge that some changes do need to be made in this funding formula, and some urban districts are failing, and money, in some cases, is not the answer, more money.
I don't accept that. So here's the problem with funding. When you look at the governor's record, he has his legacy. It has been defunding public education. He took $1.1 billion out of the funding formula in 2010 when he took office. Many of that was going to the communities that are complaining now. And he hasn't increased funding under the formula.
Suburban communities.
That's right. And communities, that money wasn't really going to go to the urban districts. It was going to go to the very community he's talking about. So if he really cared about kids, and all kids across the state, and property tax relief, et cetera, what he would do is he'd start having a conversation about how do we get funding the formula back on track.
Okay.
David Sciarra, Education Law Center, appreciate it. You've been with us for like 25 years plus.
I've been at it a long time, as long as you guys.
Okay, David, thank you so much.
Thank you.
My husband and I spent more than 30 years in the public schools. We're retired, but we like to stay involved. Do you think he's going to learn to fly? We're just as busy now as in our teaching days. The same goes for a lot of the retired educators we know. Let me see you all flap your wings like you're penguins learning to fly. Teaching is all about building relationships, and that never goes away. Because once a teacher, always a teacher. We're Ed and Miriam, and we are proud to be New Jersey educators.
Also brought to you by the North Ward Center, the New Jersey State Nurses Association, and the Institute for Nurses, and by International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 825.